So yes, I hope everyone can hear me. And hello everyone, and thank you a lot for Maat for inviting me to be part of this conversation. It's truly an honor to be here in a space that centers youth leadership in such a critical issue. Is everything okay? I hope so. So yes, my name is Aino Ohtonen. I'm a university student. I specialize and research European foreign affairs, and I also have a background in being closely involved in grassroots action through whether it's student organizations, but also an NGO called EcoF here in Sweden, which works for immigrant women's rights here in Malmö, where I'm located. And my style of contributing to politics, whether it is at academic level or a grassroots level, I try to always be very solution-oriented and optimistic and maybe even hopeful. So that's also the tone I wish to bring into my short time speaking today. And yes, I want to talk about some successful youth mobilization around the world and what we can learn from these youth. And maybe we can bring some of those pieces when building the future of SDG 6 in Africa. So first I had a little PowerPoint, but let's try to only be happy with me speaking. So yes, I want us to take a look at the Youth Water Declaration in Latin America and the Caribbean, where more than 250 young water professionals came together to draft a regional youth declaration on water, where they advocated for water as a human right, for sustainability and justice, and for stronger youth participation in decision making. So they were proposing, leading, and taking action, always together as a unified voice, youth voice. And that's exactly what I think that we as young people all around the world should really strive for, which is a collective voice. Because when we as young people speak together, we have political power and we become harder to ignore. And together we are able to define priorities, shape agendas, and also attract international attention. And this is also very important when we talk about funding, because funding always doesn't, unfortunately, follow need, but it follows visibility, pressure, and collective demands, which we as youth are able to provide. The second example I wanted to bring up is the youth hackathons and innovation spaces across Africa. So across the continent, young people are coming together to develop practical and investable solutions to real challenges, whether it is using technology to monitor water quality or creating community-led environmental initiatives. And a good example of that is the Africa Water Investment Summit Hackathon. And yeah, these are not just ideas, these are solutions that actually attract funding. That is why I myself find this so inspiring, because it shows exactly what the youth is so strong in, which is creativity, technology, and problem solving. Because young people are making projects fundable, and this is really important when we look at the SDG 6, where we, as before mentioned, there is a major gap between the funding that is needed and what is then actually invested. So innovation really becomes not just important but necessary, and the young people, we are able to provide that. because we're in a very strong position to help bridge that gap by turning local challenges into solutions being supported and funded. The third and last example I want to bring up is youth-led global climate movements, like I'm using as an example movement maybe you have heard of, which is called Fridays for Future, which was started by back then a 15-year-old Greta Thunberg from Sweden. Maybe you have heard of her. And it started by her sitting outside of the Swedish parliament every school day and demanding action from political leaders in Sweden to prevent climate change. And what first started just as one random 15-year-old taking a stance very fast grew into a global movement, and the young people around the world followed. I remember when I was in high school, we took the Fridays off and went to protest in my small town's city center. And to me, this shows something very powerful, because sometimes creating a movement or a shift starts with just one person who is willing to take the first scary step. And I really believe that within us, whether it is in this space or around the world, there are many brave people. So yeah, I think we can all try, especially as young people, we can try to find the courage and maybe a little Greta Thunberg or whoever you want to have as an example in ourselves, and take the first step in our own local communities, because the impact of that step might be actually much bigger than we can imagine even. And what is also important to mention is that then these movements, they don't just raise awareness, they shift where the priorities are at, and they shift political agendas. And over time, when agendas are being shifted, of course, they also influence where funding and resources are directed towards. Because once an issue becomes impossible to ignore, often then the funding and attention follows. So for me, the question is not whether young people can contribute to achieving SDG 6 or any other change around the world, because we already are. But the question is whether systems, whether it's financial, political, or institutional, if they are ready to recognize it and open up space for youth, not only to participate, but to influence and lead. Because if that space is created, then mobilizing funding is no longer just about closing a gap, but it becomes something more inclusive, more innovative, and more connected to the realities of the people it is meant to serve. And I think that's where the real power of youth lies. It's not just in supporting development, but reshaping how it happens. Yes, thank you. And thank you for giving the space to speak and inviting me to hear the other talented people speaking.